October 17th, 2011, Seoul, South Korea. The city yawns into night. The rain on Sinchon's concrete tastes of copper and neon. A 10-floor off-campus dormitory, built in the late 1980s and renovated in patches, hums with vending machines and overworked plumbing. He is 20, a computer science student with grey half-moons under his eyes and a superstition he claims not to believe. He has a name his friends shorten to June and an exam in the morning. He tells himself he's riding the elevator to wake up, to reset. He tells himself it's a joke. The elevator doors reflect him back in stainless steel, a double that blinks when he does not. The campus rumor is old as the basement mildew. Ride alone, at night, in a building with at least 10 floors. Press a sequence. Do not speak. If a woman enters on the 5th floor, do not look at her. Do not answer the question that is not a question. He has the sequence saved in his notes app and then deleted out of embarrassment. He remembers it anyway. He feels the ritual tug at him the way lullabies pull at sleep. He tells himself it's about controlling fear. He wants a story to post later. He wants, but he doesn't name what he wants. On the lobby's cracked tiles, a monitor shows the elevator's interior from a cheap camera, a fisheye portrait of fluorescent loneliness. He watches himself step in. 2 a.m. The doors slide shut like a second eyelid. He smells old electricity and warm dust. He presses 2, then 6. The elevator answers with a tired whine and an upward shrug. The panel's red numerals pulse like a heartbeat distant from his own. On 2, no one waits. A newspaper from yesterday lies folded like a sleeping bird. He does not step out. He presses 6. The lift climbs, slow as a held breath. He feels the grain of the button beneath his thumb and thinks how absurd this is. On 6, the hall's light flickers. A cart of cleaning supplies stands sentry, its wheels angled inward as if listening. He does not speak. He presses the next number, resisting the urge to glance at his reflection, which seems a fraction of a second late to respond. The building becomes a metronome of doors. The ritual is a skein of silence he wraps around himself. On 5, the doors part. He sees no one. He feels, nevertheless, the elevator lean as if weight has joined him. The camera above him ticks quietly. He tells himself the motor's tone has changed, only because the shaft grows warmer in the night. He keeps his eyes on the panel, on the numbers that promise a pattern he can control. When the doors open again, he tastes static. He will later try to describe this taste, but have only metaphors. Snow on a dead channel, old coins between teeth. The lobby, when it appears, is not the lobby he left. The vending machine stands in a different corner. The CCTV monitor is off. The front desk, which should be manned by a half-sleeping guard with a radio, is empty. Outside, the rain makes no sound. He watches it through glass that looks thicker than before, and the street beyond lacks its usual drunk laughter, its taxis, its sirens. He tells himself to follow the rule. Do not step out if it feels wrong. He does not step out. He presses a button to go back up. None of the floor numbers respond. The closed door button, often placebo, obeys. The doors shudder shut with the reluctance of an animal dragged by a leash. He feels something like a drop in an airplane. His ears click. The elevator rises, then falls, then moves sideways without moving at all. The floor indicator cycles numbers that don't exist, a procession of symbols his brain recognizes but can't place. Not Hangul, not numbers, not English. He remembers the warning that came attached to the ritual like a shadow. If you speak, you invite. If something asks where you are going, do not answer. He realizes it has already asked, not with words but with rearranged familiarity. A lobby without its guard. Rain that doesn't sound like rain. A mirror that blinks later than it should. On floor 10, if it is floor 10, The doors open to daylight that cannot exist at 2 in the morning. The hallway is white, very white, new paint white. The kind of new that smells like masking and gloss. At the end of it, the window shows the Han River, but it is wrong. It runs in the other direction. The bridges do not line up. The boats move like rewound moths. A woman stands with her back to him, hair long, black, soaking the back of a navy blazer. Her shoes are school shoes. Her reflection is not in the elevator's stainless steel. He does not look directly. He narrows his vision to the panel's rectangle and waits, heart thrumming. "Excuse me," she says, and the words come in a voice that sounds like someone imitating someone else, half a second out of sync. "Do you know which floor is the library?" The pause lands between words like a tripwire. He understands the rule at the level of animal certainty. The question is a hook, and his mouth is a lake's surface. He does not answer. He closes his eyes a fraction. He presses nothing. The doors start to close. A shoe falls between the narrowing doors, scuffing the threshold. The leather is damp. The smell of the river presses against his sinuses, sweet and rot soft. "Hey," she says softly, and the soft is the most terrible part. The doors, obeying the shoe, reopen. She stands beyond them, not stepping in. The hallway light humming behind her like a hive. Her head tilts, and he hears the invisible camera tick above him. He thinks of watchers. He thinks of feeding. He stares at his reflection. He asks himself, as if it matters, whether he is dreaming. He counts backward from 10 in his mind to slow his breath. On 1, he swallows. He presses a number from the original sequence, any number, just to move. The elevator stirs. The doors begin to close again. The shoe vanishes. The woman's head does not move. The doors seal like a wound. He feels something slide across the door from the other side, something like a fingertip tracing the seam. When the doors open next, they open on a floor he recognizes, his own. He steps out because panic is a force larger than rules. The hall's dim bulbs hum at familiar frequencies. The wall poster for last spring's festival is torn in the same place. He rushes to his room. The card key's light turns green. He enters, flicks on the light, and freezes. The room is his, exactly, but off by a fraction. His plant leans left instead of right. The mug he broke last week is whole, but chipped in a new place. The reflection in the window moves a beat behind him. The textbooks bear his name. The schedule taped to the wall lists, classes he never took. In the bathroom mirror, his face looks a day older. A tiny cut on his cheek he never had before throbs, as if fresh. When he touches it, there is nothing on his finger. The building groans. A sound he knows like an old friend clearing his throat. He hears footsteps in the hall. His neighbor's gait, the soft slap and shuffle he recognizes. He opens the door to greet him, to anchor himself. The neighbor walks past without seeing him. The neighbor is him. He retreats into the room and locks the door and sits on the bed that is his, but smells like a new detergent he has never bought. Feet pass his door, then stop, a knock, then another, soft, patient, as if thoughtful. He texts his group chat and watches the message bubble sit unsent, unsent, unsent. He tries to call. The call connects. The voice on the other end is his own voice, a recorded message he does not remember recording. Leave a message. The elevator's motor hums below him like a memory of the sea. He remembers the final rule whispered by a roommate's ex-girlfriend in a cafeteria that felt too bright. To return, retrace exactly, ride again, do not speak, step out only when the air tastes like it should. The world has turned to a maze that wants him to admit it exists. He cannot stay in this almost home. He cannot leave his almost room. He leaves anyway. The hallway at 2:15 is bluer than it used to be, like a television left on. The elevator doors are already open. He thinks they are inviting. He thinks that is the point. He keeps his eyes on the panel and steps inside and feels for the first time tonight genuinely alone. The doors close with a sound like the end of a tape. He presses the sequence backward, trusting muscle memory more than thought. The elevator moves with the docile compliance of something that has gotten what it wanted. Floors pass like breaths. On 5, the doors open, empty. A smell holds in the threshold. River, gloss paint, old coins. He does not breathe it. He does not answer the question he can feel in the air, shapeless and close. He presses the next button. The doors close. On 2, the flicker above the cleaning cart is back. The cart is turned outward now, as if it had looked up at him while he was gone, and then turned away in embarrassment. The lobby appears last. True lobby, with its sleepy guard, its humming monitor, its vending machine in the right corner. Rain sounds like rain. The street is mean with taxis. The guard glances up, disinterested, and scratches a note on a clipboard. The elevator chirps a mechanical farewell. He steps out without turning his back to the mirror. He walks to the glass doors and touches the metal push bar, cool and damp under his palm, and feels the entire world lean back into its old alignment. His phone buzzes. Messages flood in at once, breathless. "Where are you, dude?" He texts, "Lobby." He adds an emoji he would not normally use to reassure them. He pockets the phone because the phone feels heavier than it should. He sleeps in the lounge with the fluorescent lights on like guardians. He dreams of rivers that run uphill. He wakes to morning students and coffee, and nothing supernatural. But he cannot shake the feeling that something followed him back. Not fully. Not like a passenger, but like a smell that clings to fabric. That night, and on nights after, he will sometimes hear a knock, 2 soft taps, at his door at 2:15 a.m. He will not open. He will not answer. He will feel the building hold its breath until he falls asleep. Years later, on forums where the city takes off its face, accounts will appear that mirror his, with small mutations. Elevators that refuse all buttons except those of prime numbers. A woman whose shoes are wet though it has not rained in days. A voice that asks for a floor that does not exist. In these accounts, the advice becomes its own mythology. Do not talk. Do not look. If you find yourself in a lobby that is almost yours, check the vending machine. If it sells a flavor you've never seen, ride again. If the glass shows your reflection blink a fraction late, ride again. If the guard does not look up when you pass, ride again. And if you hear a soft, patient knock at a familiar door that is not your door, do not answer. The building remains. The rain returns each autumn to wash its concrete back to ordinary. Students move in and out, a slow tide the city barely notices. The elevator is repaired, upgraded, inspected by men who wear blue shirts and carry clipboards like shields. They replace cables, they polish steel, they calibrate sensors. The elevator thanks them with compliance. It behaves, it obeys. Until 2 in the morning, when the numbers on the panel glow with a deeper red, and the camera blinks a beat off, and the motor hum turns sweet like a lie. He grows older. He tells no one. He tests himself with small rituals of control, flipping light switches in even counts, setting alarms at palindromic times, opening a textbook to the exact page of a memory. He thinks he is fine. Then one winter night, he returns to the dorm to retrieve a scarf he left behind, years after graduation. The building now used for visiting researchers. The lobby has been redone. The vending machine is different. He tells himself he is only stopping for a memory. He steps into the elevator. He does not push any buttons. The doors close. The elevator begins to move, smooth as silk. He is alone. He has not pressed anything. The floor indicator cycles, not nonsense, but a sequence he recognizes with a drop in his stomach. The old one. His hands hover, then refuse. He tries to press L for lobby, for exit, for life. The button gives under his thumb without lighting. The elevator is warm, friendly, womb-like. He swallows. He says nothing. On 5, the doors open to a void of hallway with no light at all. He can smell the river, though the river is far. He waits. He lets the doors close on their own. He thinks of the rule never spoken out loud because it felt too much like ceding power. It is not a game. It is a door that likes to be used. The more it is told, the more it exists. When he finally emerges into the cold, he walks fast under winter stars like salt scattered on black cloth. He does not look back at the glass because he does not want to see if his reflection lags. At home, he hangs the scarf on a chair. He leaves the lights on. He listens for a knock he hopes won't come. When it does, soft as 2 fingernails on wood, he breathes and does not answer. He lets the building on the far side of the city breathe in, then out, and pass him by. Somewhere else in Seoul, in a different 10-floor building with a softer carpet, a girl presses a sequence because she is tired of not belonging, because rituals are invitations dressed as rules. She rides up through floors that smell like concrete and detergent and her own nervous sweat. On 5, the doors open. A man stands there, head tilted, hair damp, shoes wet, blazer dark as the river at night. He says nothing. She says, "Excuse me." The word is a key that fits too many locks, and the city, ancient and new in the same hour, breathes. Its elevators whisper, its cameras blink, its lobbies and basements and stairwells shuffle their details like a deck of cards. Someone somewhere steps into almost home and steps out of true home and cannot tell which ache is worse. The rules repeat, passed along like a childhood rhyme, softened into dare, sharpened into caution. Press, ride, do not speak, do not look. If the world leans wrong, ride again. If the knock is soft, do not answer. If you must ask for directions, don't. The door may answer anyway. Listen closely. The hum you hear at night through thin walls is not always the neighbor's heater. Sometimes it is the building itself, remembering. Sometimes it is the shaft, empty but not empty, tuning itself like a throat before a song. Sometimes it is the other place, running parallel like the Han's dark twin, matching the city floor for floor, detail for detail, except for one thing. It wants you to admit you see it. Once you do, it knocks softly, twice. The rest is simple and terrible. You either pretend you never heard it and live with a world a half-degree off forever, or you ride and hope that when the doors open again, the rain sounds like rain. November 8th, 2004. Paju, South Korea. The fog had rolled in from the Imjin River before midnight, thick and pale, swallowing the lights of Jayuro Road one by one. Locals called it Freedom Road, but anyone who had driven it at night knew it felt more like a border between worlds than a highway. The name came from its direction, the route that led toward the demilitarized zone, the edge of North Korea. But to the people who lived nearby, it meant something else. The road that sometimes didn't want to let you leave. That night, a delivery driver named Min-ho guided his white van through the mist. His shift was almost over. His dashboard clock blinked 12:47 a.m. He hummed under his breath, a habit against sleep. The radio caught and lost its signal, spilling fragments of static that almost sounded like voices. He turned the volume down. Ahead, the fog pulsed with the reflected glow of his headlights. a moving wall of white that made him feel as though the world ended just a few meters beyond his windshield. He had driven Jairo hundreds of times before, from Seoul to the outskirts of Paju, sometimes all the way toward Imjingak, the northern lookout. But tonight, the road felt wrong. The air inside the van was colder than outside, as though someone had opened a window he couldn't see. The headlights caught something, a shape, at the edge of the lane. A woman. She stood at the shoulder, still as stone, facing the traffic, her black hair plastered against her cheeks. She wore a beige coat and dark sunglasses, though the night was too deep for any light to protect her from. Minho slowed instinctively. Maybe she was hurt. Maybe her car had broken down. He flicked on his hazard lights and rolled down his window. "Are you okay?" he called, but his voice seemed to vanish before reaching her. The woman didn't move. Her face was angled downward, chin low, the way people look when listening hard to something far away. Her hands hung at her sides, pale, unmoving. The fog curled around her as if afraid to touch. Minho pulled the van closer. The tires hissed over the wet asphalt. When he was close enough for his headlights to swallow her, he realized something strange. Her sunglasses weren't reflecting light. They were absorbing it. Two perfect ovals of black that didn't shine. He leaned forward. "Miss, do you need help?" Then she lifted her head, and the sunglasses were gone. The face beneath was human, almost, but where the eyes should have been, there were only dark pits, deep and dry, like the hollows left in wood by fire. No blood, no socket rim. Just depth. Too much depth. And the sense of something staring out from inside the emptiness. Minho slammed the accelerator. The van lurched forward. His breath fogged the windshield. Behind him, in the rearview mirror, the woman stood exactly where she had been, but her head was turned. Following him, her eyeless face reflecting no light at all. When he reached the toll gate at the next exit, he was shaking so badly he dropped his wallet twice. The attendant asked if he was sick. Minho didn't answer. He only muttered, "There's someone on the road," and sped off toward the city lights that looked, for once, like salvation. Stories of her began decades earlier, long before Minho's night on the fog road. Some said she was the spirit of a bride who died in a car crash on her wedding day. Others swore she was a North Korean refugee who had been struck by a military truck while trying to cross to the south. Truckers along Jairo called her the sunglasses woman, because those who saw her eyes didn't always make it home to describe them. The legend spread quietly, the way fear does, whispered by mechanics, toll booth operators, police officers who investigated the same stretch of road again and again. Reports piled up, single car accidents with no skid marks, drivers found slumped at the wheel, faces frozen in expressions of shock or awe, windshields spiderwebbed from the inside as if something had struck them from the passenger seat. By 2007, Jairo was infamous among long-haul drivers. Some refused to take it after midnight. Others developed rituals, tapping the dashboard 3 times when the fog rolled in, or keeping an offering of rice cakes on the passenger seat. They said she only appeared when you were alone. One driver, an older man named Dae-soo, told his story to a local radio host, known for collecting ghost tales. He said he had been returning from the DMZ with a shipment of spare parts, the road silent except for the tires hum. The fog that night, he said, came in bands, thick, then clear, then thick again, like waves. On one of those clear stretches, he saw her standing in the middle of the lane. He braked, hard, but she didn't move. "I hit her," he told the host. "I felt the impact." He stopped the truck, got out, and ran back, heart hammering. The fog had swallowed her, but when he reached the front of his truck, there was no dent, no blood, no torn fabric, only a faint handprint smeared on the hood, too long and thin to be real. That night, at home, He dreamed of driving the same road again. Only this time, she was sitting in his passenger seat, head turned toward him, her sunglasses resting neatly in her lap. When he woke, his truck keys were on the kitchen floor, though he remembered placing them on the counter. He stopped driving Jayuro after that. In 2013, an accident caught on a dashboard camera reignited the legend. The footage circulated online, though the police quickly took it down. It showed a small sedan traveling north on Jayuro just after 1 a.m. The driver, a woman in her 30s, sang softly to herself. Then, without warning, her headlights illuminated a figure in the lane ahead. A woman, standing motionless. The car swerved. The camera spun. For a split second, as the vehicle rolled, the figure appeared directly in front of the windshield. The last frame before the feed cut showed the woman's face pressed against the glass. Eyes gone, mouth open as if screaming. Though no sound was recorded, the driver survived. But she would later tell investigators that she didn't remember the crash. What she remembered was something else. Standing in fog, barefoot, while someone whispered her name from very far away. She remembered sunlight on water. She remembered trying to open her eyes and finding nothing there. The dashcam was returned to her family months later. When they reviewed it again, the file was corrupted. Every frame after the headlights first hit the figure was blank white, as though overexposed. Locals around Paju began to weave new layers into the story. A rumor grew that the ghost appeared more often during times of political tension between the two Koreas. That she was a warning, a restless spirit tied to the unhealed wound of division. They said the hollow eyes symbolized all those who vanished between borders, whose names never returned. But others claimed it was older than that Jayuro had been built over a stretch of ground used during the Korean War to transport the dead, a corridor of vehicles carrying bodies toward makeshift burial grounds. The fog, they said, was not weather, but residue, a memory the earth exhaled when the night grew quiet enough. In late autumn of 2016, an amateur paranormal researcher named Yoon-ji set out to document the phenomenon herself. She ran a small online channel about Korean urban legends and had heard the Jayuro stories since childhood. That October, she and her cameraman, a quiet university student named Jae-hyun, drove to the stretch of road between the third and fourth exits, the place most sightings occurred. They parked on the shoulder just before midnight. The fog was already forming, thick and low, like breath trapped beneath glass. They set up a camera facing the road and another inside the car. On the recording, their voices sound calm at first. They joke nervously. They talk about how quiet the road is, how unnatural the fog feels, like it's moving in rhythm with something breathing. At 12:36 a.m., a shape appears at the far edge of the headlights. It's a woman, standing perfectly still, wearing sunglasses. Yoonji's voice catches. Is that someone there? The camera focuses, pixel by pixel. The woman seems far away, but when the fog pulses again, she is closer, as though the road itself had shifted. She's not moving, Jae-hyun whispers. Maybe it's a trick of the light. But the headlights don't change. The figure is simply closer. Her coat stirs, though the air is still. Then, a sound from inside the car. The faint click of the passenger door unlocking. They both freeze. She didn't touch it, Yoonji says, panic breaking through her composure. You didn't. The sound repeats. Click. The woman outside tilts her head, slowly, mechanically. The fog folds around her. The next frame in the video jumps. A digital glitch. And when the image returns, she is standing beside the passenger window, her face inches from the glass. Her sunglasses are gone. Two black hollows stare in. Not bleeding, not empty. Deep, like holes that lead into another sky. The recording ends there. Police found the car hours later, engine running, headlights still on. Both doors were open. There were no signs of a struggle, no footprints leading away, only two small handprints on the inside of the windshield, as if someone had pressed against it from within. Neither Yoonji nor Jaehyun were found. The camera was recovered, but the internal memory was blank except for one audio file. Faint breathing, then a whisper in a woman's voice. The words were unclear except for one. Stop. Since then, Jae-ro has changed. Streetlights have been added, cameras installed, and the government has paved new lanes. But truckers still swear the fog comes thicker there than anywhere else. They say it carries whispers if you drive slow enough, like someone trying to call for help from under the road. One officer who patrols that stretch refuses to speak of what he saw on a dash monitor during a night fog in 2019, only that he has since covered the screen with black tape when driving through. You don't want to know what's looking back, he told a colleague. And still, every few years, a new video surfaces online. Blurred footage of a pale figure at the roadside, a reflection too human to dismiss. Most are hoaxes, easily debunked. But one detail never changes. The figure always wears sunglasses. Until the moment she doesn't. If you drive Jae-ro at night, especially on fog-heavy nights, locals say there are rules. Keep your windows up. Don't stop for anyone, no matter how lost they look. Don't flash your high beams more than twice. And whatever you do, if you see a woman in a beige coat wearing sunglasses on the side of the road, don't look directly at her face. Because once you see what's beneath those glasses, something changes. The road doesn't feel like a road anymore. It feels like a bridge. And when you drive home, sometimes, the reflection in your window doesn't match the movement of your own eyes. The legend endures because someone always thinks they're immune to fear. Someone always stops. And the road, faithful and patient, always waits. Freedom Road, they call it. But every ghost story knows what freedom costs. And some spirits, some memories, never find the exit. March 3rd, 1998. Incheon, South Korea. The morning began like any other. The corridors of Hanul Middle School rang with the metallic laughter of children, the sharp clap of sneakers against linoleum floors. Outside, cherry blossoms had just begun to bloom. Soft pink petals caught in the grey breath of early spring. The school, built in the 1970s, was a rectangular block of concrete, its windows grimy with years of rain and chalk dust. But on the third floor, at the end of the oldest hallway, there was a bathroom no one used. The tiles were a different colour from the rest, pale green instead of white, cracked in a way that resembled veins beneath thin skin. The teachers never mentioned it. The janitor, an elderly man who had worked there since before the students' parents were born, simply locked the door each evening and muttered something about pipes when asked. No one really knew why it was avoided, only that strange things happened there. Lights flickered even after being replaced. Water dripped from dry taps. Once, a student swore she saw footprints appear on the floor. Bare, wet, too small to belong to anyone living. They said it started years ago with a girl named Mi-sun. Mi-sun had been a quiet student in 1979. Shy, polite, the kind of child who sat at the back of the class and drew on the corners of her notebook. The war had ended decades earlier, but her father, an officer, was still stationed near the border, and her mother often wept alone in the kitchen. One rainy afternoon, Mi-sun stayed behind after class to clean the classroom as punishment for being late. When she finished, thunder rolled outside, and she realized she was alone. She went to the third-floor bathroom to wash her hands before leaving. The lights flickered. She entered the last stall. The door creaked shut behind her. Minutes later, a scream echoed down the hall. By the time the janitor reached the bathroom, it was empty. Only the door of the last stall swung gently, back and forth, as if someone had just stepped away. They found Misun the next morning in the reservoir behind the school. No one could explain how she had left the locked building. Her face was pale blue, her eyes wide open. The teachers told the students she had slipped, but children know when adults lie. After that, strange things began to happen. Toilets flushed themselves. Red stains appeared on mirrors, spreading like veins before fading by morning. A teacher who tried to renovate the bathroom slipped on a wet patch and broke his leg, though the floor had been bone dry. By the 1990s, Hanul Middle had new students, new teachers, new rules, but the old bathroom remained. That spring of 1998, rumors returned. A seventh grader named G1 swore she heard a girl crying inside when she passed the third floor hall at dusk. Her friends laughed, daring her to go in after class. G1 accepted. She was new and wanted to prove she wasn't afraid. At 5:20 p.m., the highs corridors emptied. Dust danced in the sunlight that slanted through the windows. G1 walked toward the third floor bathroom, her sneakers echoing too loudly on the tiles. The door was unlocked. She pushed it open. Inside, the air was colder than the hallway. A faint drip came from somewhere unseen. The smell of damp concrete clung to the back of her throat. She whispered hello, feeling ridiculous, and the words seemed to echo back. Low, low, low. There were 3 stalls. The first 2 stood open. The third was closed. Anyone here? She asked, forcing a laugh. The faucet turned on by itself. Water gushed, then stopped. The lights flickered once, twice. Then the stall door creaked open. No one stood there. Only the faintest ripple moved across the water in the toilet bowl, like something beneath the surface had exhaled. G1 turned to leave, but the bathroom door slammed shut. The sound cracked through the hallway like a gunshot. She ran to it, but the handle wouldn't move. She pounded. Hey, it's not funny. Then she heard it. A voice. Soft. Feminine. Close. Do you want red paper? Or blue paper? She froze. The voice came from behind her, from the stall that had just opened. It was calm, almost polite, as though asking a classmate for a pencil. G1 turned slowly. The stall door was closed again. Beneath it, she saw shoes. Old-fashioned, black school shoes, scuffed and soaked. Red? The voice asked again. Or blue? G1 tried to scream, but her throat locked. She backed against the wall. Who's there? Red or blue? The shoes shifted, pointing toward her. G1's breath came fast and shallow. She remembered the stories, half whispered in the cafeteria, that if you chose red, the ghost would peel off your skin until you matched the color you asked for. If you chose blue, she would strangle you until your face turned the same shade. G1 did the only thing she could think of. I don't want any, she shouted. The silence that followed was absolute. The faucet stopped dripping. Even her heartbeat seemed to pause. Then the voice spoke again. Soft, sad. Then, no color at all. The door handle turned on its own. The lights flickered. G1 covered her eyes. When she opened them, the bathroom was empty. The stall stood ajar. The air smelled faintly of iron and perfume. She ran. By the time the janitor found her outside, shaking near the school gates, she could barely speak. She only said one thing, again and again. She asked me about colors. In the weeks that followed, G1 refused to use any bathroom alone. She fainted at the sight of red ink. Her mother transferred her to another school by summer, but the story spread, as it always did. Each retelling sharpened it. A girl's voice, a question about toilet paper, a choice that meant death. Some said if you refused to answer, she would pull you down through the toilet itself. Others said she marked those who saw her, following them home, waiting until they stood alone in front of a mirror to whisper the question again. And every few years, someone new claimed to have heard her. In 2006, a renovation team arrived to finally repair the old third-floor bathroom. They tore out the tiles, replaced the fixtures, and scraped the ceiling clean of black mold. For a while, everything seemed normal. Then, one evening, one of the workers, an apprentice named Sunwoo, stayed late to finish sealing the pipes. His co-workers left, promising to meet for drinks later. He worked in silence, the sound of his tools echoing off the empty corridor. When he finished, he stood, wiped his hands, and went to the sink to wash. The faucet turned itself on before he touched it. Cold water splashed against his fingers. He frowned and bent to check the handle. That's when he saw in the mirror above the sink a reflection that wasn't his. Behind him stood a girl in an old uniform, her head tilted, her black hair dripping water onto the floor. Her eyes were hidden by shadows. Then her mouth opened. "Red paper," she whispered. "Or blue." Sunwoo spun around. No one was there. The next morning, his co-workers found the bathroom half flooded. Sunwoo's tools lay scattered. He had vanished, leaving only his jacket hanging on the door. The renovation was cancelled. The bathroom was sealed again. By 2012, the story had spread beyond the school. Paranormal forums online shared it under a dozen names. The red paper ghost, the girl of the third stall, the toilet spirit. Some users joked about it. Others swore they had experienced similar things in other schools across the country. One post stood out. It was written by a woman identifying herself as a teacher from Incheon, who said she had once worked at Hanul Middle. She described hearing footsteps in the third-floor hallway after hours, always stopping outside the locked bathroom. She described finding paper scattered near the door. One sheet red, one blue, damp as if handled by wet fingers. She ended her post with a warning. If you ever hear someone asking that question, never answer. Leave immediately. And if you can't leave, pick any color except red or blue. Say yellow, say white, say none. Just don't say what she wants. The account was deleted the following week. Today, Hanul Middle still stands. The students who study there now know only fragments of the tale. They whisper about it during exams, daring each other to sneak upstairs after school. The teachers pretend not to hear. The third-floor bathroom remains locked. The key, they say, was lost years ago. The janitor, now an old man with grey hair and trembling hands, still refuses to go near it. When asked why, he only says, "Some doors stay closed for a reason." But the building breathes differently at night. Cleaning staff report hearing water running when the faucets are dry. Sometimes, from the far end of the hall, a faint voice carries, soft, almost kind. "Red or blue?" Those who hear it say the question feels like a test, as if the thing asking already knows what you will choose. Sometimes, the next morning, a stall door that no one opened stands ajar. Sometimes the mirror shows fingerprints that don't match any human hand. And once, only once, a teacher arriving early found something strange at the base of the bathroom door. 2 sheets of paper folded neatly, one red, one blue, both damp, both smelling faintly of perfume and rust. They say Misun never left, that her spirit remained, trapped in the space where fear first found her. Some think she doesn't know she's dead, that she repeats her question endlessly, searching for someone to answer it differently, to break the cycle. But others believe she does know, that she asks not out of confusion, but hunger, that every choice, every frightened whisper, feeds the memory of what was done to her. And maybe that's why, even now, in schools across the country, the legend repeats itself. Different cities, different names, always the same question. Red or blue? They say if you ever find yourself alone in a bathroom late at night, and the lights flicker, and a voice behind you asks that question, there's only one way to survive. Don't answer. Don't move. Close your eyes and wait, because the thing in the stall doesn't want color. It wants acknowledgement. And once you look, once you speak, she will know you've seen her. Then the door will close by itself. The air will grow still. And the next sound you hear will be the soft, wet rustle of paper unfolding. Just before hands you cannot see reach out from behind you. If you're lucky, someone will find the stall empty the next morning. If you're not, they'll only find the color you chose.